Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me state it that my voice is not so clear because you understand we were in the protest today. So therefore, you can just kindly bear with me, but I hope you are able to get me clearly. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the protests in Nairobi were expected. Protests in Kisii were expected. Protests in Machakos were expected. The protests that occurred in Mombasa were expected. But the protests in Uasin Gishu County, that's Eldoret, and also Kericho, were not expected according to me. Now, Kericho and Eldoret, protests that were there were just like in many other countries, in other parts of the country. Because there was destruction of the UDA portraits all over, there was also chanting of Ruto must go, and the police were deployed as well, plus the goons to help the police to tame the protesters there. Now, on this particular video, I want to take you through step by step on the lessons that I learned from the protests that occurred in Kericho and Eldoret. But before I do so, please, if this is the first time you're watching my videos at Mukwa Times, take a second or two to subscribe, like, and comment, because that is the best support you can always give this channel. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to dive into the topic today. Why am I saying that the protests in Uasin Gishu and Kericho were not expected? These are strongholds of President William Ruto. He comes from Uasin Gishu County, and of course, Kericho being among the Kalenjin, he also has a huge command there. So nobody expected that, as the rest of the country is chanting Ruto must go, as well from the Rift Valley people, more especially Kericho and Uasin Gishu, would come out and also say William Ruto one term. Therefore, that is why I've chosen these two areas to do this video here today. What are some of these lessons that I learned from that kind of a protest? That is, those protests, Kericho and Gishu. Number one, the pain that William Ruto has caused to Kenyans, it is cutting across all tribes in this country. And that Kenyans are united against that pain. What do I mean by that? If it is the cost of living that William Ruto has resulted to, it is experienced both in Uasin Gishu, Homa Bay County, and Kisii here, and the rest of the country. And the people there are understanding that the buck stops at President William Ruto's door. So therefore, it's clear that everyone is hurt across the country, and that everybody wants William Ruto to go because of the pain that he has caused us all. Right now as you speak actually, Luo Nyanza is behaving that there is no protest there because there is no injuries there in the government. Between them and the people in Kalenjin, who are more in government, it is them. It is the Kalenjin people. So therefore, the Luo Nyanza people have not come out to protest as such. That is pretense. It cannot be used at all to define that William Ruto is not now hated across the country. In fact, they are just excited for having some members from the ODM party being in the cabinet. But the fact remains, pain is cutting across the country. So therefore, Uasin Gishu protests, Kericho protests, were a clear indication that William Ruto has caused pain, not just to other people who do not come from his tribe, but also those who cut across. But his pain cuts across every tribe in this country. Number two, the youths of this country, regardless of their tribe, they're united against bad governance. They're united. Personally, to be honest, I thought that the demonstrations that we had last year, they're off guard. it was somehow an excitement. But only to realize this time round, again, a huge number of youths came out despite the preparation of the police to face them, came out to protest against President William Ruto's regime. Checking that it also happened in Uasin Gishu, and in fact in Uasin Gishu, last time they had just the police dealing with the protesters and they tried to manage them. This time they even had goons having some sticks, some weapons against the people of Uasin Gishu. Meaning the numbers there were huge. A clear indication that the youth of this country are speaking the same language still. And if this consistency continues, William Ruto must be afraid. Ladies and gentlemen, the other thing I want to say here, it is that the coming out of the protesters in Uasin Gishu and Kericho indicated that the youths in 2027 might not vote tribally. Tribal voting is always what has been happening in the country. But if the youths continue this kind of demonstration, this kind of spirit, in 2027, they might not vote tribally. And who suffers here? William Ruto. In the sense that the numbers in Rift Valley will decrease significantly. Checking from the number of youths in that region, he has to be afraid. So the indication that they might not vote tribally, it is a clear indication that William Ruto might go home in 2027. Where I'm a statistician by profession, and we know that data never lies. And based on my observations, the data I've collected, with this kind of a spirit, William Ruto has no numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to state it here categorically that the protests in Kericho and Uasin Gishu indicate clearly that William Ruto is not a good leader. Leader hated like that across the country, plus the youth from his hometown, that is unbelievable. Therefore, it's a clear indication that William Ruto, there's something that he needs to change immediately. He cannot just be killing. He cannot just be abducting. He cannot just be even arresting. He has to do something that he has not done. Listening to the demands of the youths of this country. I personally tell myself, if William Ruto sits back and listens to what the people said, not now, but last year, even reshuffle this cabinet, get people out of the cabinet, and bring in people who are able to deliver for this country, William Ruto will be a better president than now. But now he completely ignores the voice of the people. He needed the youths, not Raila, but he made that mistake. Ladies and gentlemen, another lesson that I'm learning here, goons deployed to the people of his hometown. It is not a new thing because it also happened in Nairobi. But now what it baffles me about is that this is the plan of government to deploy goons to the people. Because the people who was in Gishu town, I don't think they could be that lethal. You have to bring goons to them. I don't think they're new people who came to that town. This must be the locals of Eldoret town. You bring goons to them? That is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Deploying goons to the locals, and the goons are not trained people, are people meant to hit, sometimes kill. That is unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, deployment of goons is a sign of a huge, high level of desperation that William Ruto should not engage in at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, when I saw some erected objects of Ruto's party, UDA, being destroyed, especially in Kericho, something came to my mind. That William Ruto, we might not use the UDA party. On the basis that it is now hated across, is associated to all these extrajudicial killings, abductions, high taxes, corruption, stealing of public funds in all ways. And that is not the way, that's not the party that can take someone to presidency. Probably might use another party or even use the Odium party. I don't know what's your take, ladies and gentlemen, but those are the lessons I borrowed from the protests that occurred in Uasin Gishu and Kericho County. I hope you have gotten me clearly despite my voice. Please bear with me.